It's Friday, November 4th, and the other day the Phillies were no-hit by the Astros, but it took them 4 pitches. But nevertheless, it was a no-hitter, and it counted as the second no-hitter in World Series history. Now, when I was a young man in college in 1956, I cut classes that afternoon and went home to watch the World Series. It was the game that Don Larson was pitching, and he pitched a true no-hitter, all by himself, 27 up, 27 down, a perfect game. The first time in World Series history a no-hitter, and to boot a perfect game. So this game that the Astros produced was only the second no-hitter in history. That's pretty amazing, the mere fact that in all of those World Series games there have only been 2 no-hitters. And this no-hitter by the Astros was a great achievement, even though it took 4 guys to do the job. So that's not a disgrace, and people should not look upon this as a faulted no-hitter, an invalid no-hitter, because one guy didn't do the job. Because in today's baseball game, the pitchers are not expected to pitch 9 innings, the starting pitchers. They don't go 9 innings. If they go 6 innings, they've done a terrific job, because the methodology associated with pitching is very different than it was when I was a kid. Now the methodology is throw the ball as hard as you can for as long as you can. In the days when I was a kid, the pitchers were craftier. If they had a lead, they were careful. And they didn't throw hard every single time. They would figure out a way to sort of rest between pitches or somehow. They didn't throw 100% hard all the time. But the game has changed. And I don't consider it bad for the game. Games are exciting if you're watching. And if you have a methodology for watching, you can avoid commercials and things like that. You can see a baseball game in an hour and a half. I tape the game and I watch it. I skip commercials. I skip bad innings. And I'm in and out of a baseball game in maybe an hour and 15 minutes. So that's my first bit for this morning. My second bit deals with Joe Biden and his urgent appeal to the American voters. He delivered a very sharp message on Wednesday to those considering not voting in next week's midterm elections. Now Joe is saying, I need every single vote. We can't afford to give up our positions in Congress and in the Senate. We can't take democracy for granted any longer. So he's intimating that democracy is under a great threat. And I can't argue with him about that. We are under a great threat. Portions of this country are so against democracy that you can't believe you're still living in the United States of America. When we have 20 or 30 states fiddling with the voting regulations in order to suppress the minority vote. And they deny that, of course. They will deny that. But it's true. They're fiddling with the voting system so that the minorities can't get voting. And none of these situations where they shortchange on the ballot boxes and they don't want to have mail-in ballots. All of those things are voter suppressions. And they're aimed at people who can't get to the voting booth on Tuesday because they have to go to work. And those people who can't get to the voting booth are generally the poorer members of our society. And then, of course, he's worried about the candidates who are going to demand a recount because they won't commit to accepting the results of the elections they're in. Now, I voted the other day, and I told everybody that I have voted, and my wife has voted. And we voted at Kings Park High School, and they had an automated system there that every single voting poll place taking, every single voting site should have a system like that. There shouldn't be many different voting systems. There should be one universal voting system that everybody can use. But of course that's against our policies. That's not what America's about. We're giving everybody a shot. So voting is important, and it can't be standardized according to the people that run voting. So Joe is out there begging people to vote. And enthusiasm for voting is not very good. The Democrats' enthusiasm for voting this year is much lower than it was in 2018. Now maybe because they weren't in office in 2018, they had to do something about it. But now the Democrats have to get out and defend their man. They cannot allow the Republicans to run rampant over them in this midterm election. There is too much at stake. Imagine what's going to happen to the J16 committee, the J6 committee. Well, imagine what's going to happen to the J6 committee if the Republicans gain the House. They'll stop investigating the big lie. Is that what we want in this country? So the Democratic voters, it's their responsibility to defend what's going on right now in our country. To defend the investigations into Trump and to his minions who stormed the Capitol. We can't afford to let that thing slip through our fingers. And the Republicans are very enthusiastic about voting this year because they have many trumped up reasons to vote against Biden and his group. Yes, this country is suffering economically. Is it really, really Biden's fault that the economy has come apart? No. There are so many factors, and then most of them are related to the pandemic and the lines of production and the way businesses had to run during the pandemic. And we're paying the price. The people are paying the price. They can't fight inflation. You can't get a raise when it amounts to nothing compared to the rise in prices. So you get a 4% raise and the prices go up 10%, then you're screwed anyhow. So the country is in bad shape. But voting against the current administration is not going to cure the situation. It'll put us in a bind for another 2 years or so. So I want to leave you with that fact. Get out and vote. Preferably vote Democratic. But vote your conscience. Vote for the best person. I leave you with those thoughts. Have a great day. Bye.